So welcome to Past, Present, Future, the Full Circle podcast. On this podcast, we will be speaking to artists, managers, label owners, stylists, really anyone involved within the UK music and rap industry. The aim is to give you a full circle overview on their life, their past, their present, and obviously their future. Past, Present, Future, episode 11. So we are here with an incredibly seasoned veteran. I'm really, really excited. Again, I say that all the time, but I always am. So we're with DJ Firestarr. So initially, I always like to just hand it over and give a brief introduction. If you could just introduce yourself, and then we'll delve into the past, present, future journey.
Boy, yeah, DJ Firestarr. I'm not new to this. Is the tagline. DJ, obviously, primarily event promoter, podcaster, interviewer, presenter, broadcaster. Did I say that already? Yeah. That's all of it.
Man of many hats.
Trying, but yeah, we start with the DJing as the number one. That's the number one thing. But yeah, man, nice to be on, bro.
No, 100%. Thank you for coming down. We appreciate it, and we're incredibly excited for the wisdom that you're going to drop and some of the stories that we know will be tough, but will inspire the listeners, which is the most important thing. And that really is our mission statement with this podcast. So I did want to go back to the very beginning, as we always do, to kind of go through the journey. And I mean, just kind of briefly, childhood. How would you describe your childhood?
All good. To sum it up in a couple words, I'll give you a bit more. But obviously I grew up in a place called Peterborough. A lot of people don't know that. They assume I'm from like Nottingham or I'm from London, two places that I'm in have been in a hell of a lot. For the people that don't know, obviously Peterborough, it's near Leicester, it's near Cambridge. That's normally like how I let people know where it is if they don't know. East Anglia, you could say, / East Mids, sort of. Growing up, Indian heritage, Indian household, mum, dad, sister, good vibes, you know what I mean? And then I'd say, getting into sort of 15, 16, the music started becoming a big influence.
Where did that come from?
I mean, music would always be playing in the house. Mumsy would always be vibes into some music, whether it's some cheesy stuff that's on the TV all the way to classic Hindi music, Bollywood, whatever it was, do you know what I mean? And that was my thing, as in I started getting into rap, to be honest. Like, I've mentioned this before, but, I remember one of my earliest memories in terms of something that I bought. One of the first CDs early on was I was a big Bone Thugs and Harmony fan.
I read about this.
Yeah. See, because that recently came out as well, so they asked about that, and I was a Bone Thugs and Harmony fan, and one of the first CDs I ever bought was the Crossroads single, obviously one of their biggest ones, right? And from there, like, I was just fascinated by rap. And in that time, you got to give it up to Westwood, like Radio 1, the rap show. I just remember like tuning into that, and these times, it was the only way you could listen was on the radio, and the only way you could record was tape decks, play and record, like. And from there, I remember like having and hearing rap records through the circle of friends that I had. One of them in particular, I remember like his older brother always had rap albums, and he'd always be playing them. And then I started listening to the rap show, and I started hearing, a record that really sticks out for me is Nori's Banned from TV. And I just heard those sirens and the horns and the Swiss Beats production, like, and it just went on from there, bro. Like, sixth form, I was into my rap, buying CDs. It was around that time I've basically decided I wanted to start DJing. And that came about. I had a Saturday job working in a store that doesn't exist anymore. It's called Dixon's. It's
I know
PC,
Dixon's,
PC World style. I was a Saturday boy. And one of my close friends, older than me, DJ Super T, his name is, from Peterborough, he was already a certified DJ locally at one of the local nightclubs called The Park in Peterborough. Now, people locked in, especially like the London crew, probably be like, Peterborough's like the sticks. Everyone's like outside of London, the sticks. It wasn't. Like, we had a normal town centre and whatever, but them times, you couldn't get rap culture like you could in London.
Sure.
You know, a lot of things did not come. Like, our only sort of way in was like anything we knew about the US rap scene. But the UK stuff was much more difficult to kind of know anything about, and it was like non-existent really.
Sure, yeah.
I've decided I wanted to start DJing, and I was working with Super T, and not in the club, like on our Saturday job, and he was already the resident at the club.
Okay.
So I started picking his brains, and I remember telling some people around the time that I wanted to start DJing. Now, bear in mind, we're talking 1999, fam. Like, and people never, like, they just thought I was, like, taking a piss. Like, they'd never thought I stood a chance.
Sure.
You know, a couple of people, like, mocking it. Like, it was whatever.
How did that feel, people mocking it?
I didn't care, because I just loved music so much. So it wasn't like, I didn't have, like, a vision at the time, like, oh, you know, I'm going to prove all these people wrong. I'll be honest with you. I just knew I wanted to do it. That was as far as, like, the thought process.
That's all that matters, though, right?
Like, I'm going to do it. That was the thing. So I've started saving up money from the Saturday job. Now, any of the DJs locked in know, them times, obviously, you needed turntables, you needed a mixer. And there was plenty of options in terms of you could get some pretty low-cost, shitty equipment, some belt drive, turntables, a clapped out mixer, whatever. But I've decided, no, I'm going to save. You know what I mean? The aim was to get the Technics. And I started saving. And these times, for the like, turntablists locked in, the other decks, apart from the Technics, was the Vestax. They came out with, I think, I know the model. It was a PDX 2000s. They're supposed to have better torque than the Technics, whatever. Anyway, so I wanted these. So I've saved £1,000 now from my Saturday. It took ages, bro. Like, it took ages. And I've come home and I've told my old man and my mum at the time. And this is how it went. Like, if I save that amount of money and I'm going to buy something that's there, I can't hide decks in the house.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They're gonna hear it. They're going to know what's going on. So I've basically said, yeah, I'm going to spend, I'm going to get some decks.
What was the reaction?
My dad was like, you're going to get some what? And I was like, yeah, some decks. Like, and he weren't best pleased, but...
What does not being best pleased look like in this situation?
Just £1,000 is a lot of money.
Was obviously worth a lot more back then as well.
Yeah, and maybe, you know, they might have thought he can save his money rather than put it into something like that, because maybe they thought it's going to go to waste, or, you know, he's going to do this for a bit and then he's going to drop it, or whatever the case might be.
How did that influence your decision? I'm just interested, because from my perspective, I think being told that, I'd be like, right, well, I'm definitely going to buy them now.
I think when you're told, if any, he didn't come out and say no.
Okay.
Right? If he'd said no, then you would have had, like, someone telling you no is going to fuel you right?
Yeah.
It was more so like, are you sure? But here was the thing, bro. Like, I actually needed another £500 or so for the mixer. So I've told him I'm spending £1,000, and he's come around to the idea, right, okay, you're getting decks, cool, do your thing, you've earned the money, you've saved, you know, you've done it, you've got a job, like, and I've said, yeah, but Dad, like, I need a mixer as well, like, can I borrow £500? And that's when he thought, £1,500, like, is this boy taking the piss? You know what I'm saying? And he's giving me the money to get the mixer. So I've got basically the top spec equipment them times. I can't DJ, bro. Like, I don't know fuck all, right? But I know I'm in the game now. So I've got the equipment, got everything set up, and that's when the journey began in terms of like DJing. You know, straight away, I was trying to basically get vinyl, get records in. Now, anyone knows that in the UK, to get a lot of the US releases, they were charging an arm and a leg per release. Like vinyls were costing £10, £15 on export. One track, bro. So
Crazy.
to get a collection for any DJ, like when you're starting out, and
It's tough.
it's a difficult one. Now, what had happened around that time is the Saturday job that I worked, they, over one of the Christmas periods, this is just before I'm going to uni, they were the top selling. They won some competition, bro. Like some national competition. They were the best. They done the best figures, like in the region. Listen to what the prize was, bro. The prize was for the whole store to go to New York. Not only that, with a +1 and with some spending money, bro.
Oh,
I was just a Saturday
you're
boy.
gassed.
Right? I didn't even think I was going.
Yeah.
Then my manager tells me, yeah, we're all going. The store's going in 2 halves. And you can take your brethren. Bro, I'm aged 17.
Wow.
17 years old. I've just started DJing. My collection's meaty, to say the least. You know, like I'm getting whatever I can. But in terms of back catalogue, in terms of the rap and the hip-hop that I want, your Jay-Z's, your Busta, your Nas, like all of that, you can't get a lot of this stuff. I'm getting told I'm going New York. I'm taking my best friend at the time, right? Shouts to Earth, still my best friend to this day, actually. I said at the time like he's not about, but he is still. And we've gone to New York, bro, in August of 2001, a month before the Twin Towers fell, right? Just to give like some context.
Yeah.
And we were kids, bro, in New York. And when you go to New York at that age and you see like New York and you're by yourself, you're a kid, like the buildings are massive, everything's just huge. The one thing that we said we were going to do before we stepped to New York was we were going to go to a record store called Beat Street in Brooklyn. It's on Fulton Street or something, the same road that Biggie grew up on, I believe. Beat Street Records. Literally, bro, you can get vinyl records, singles for like $3. You know, normal prices. And those times, the exchange rate was, we was getting it half price, right? So I was paying £1.50, £2 for vinyl. I kid you not, bro. We spent a whole day in Brooklyn in this one shop. Yeah.
How many did you pick up?
I've sent a whole loaded case back to the UK. I've spent $800 in that store, and I've got everything, bro. I've got every record that I wanted to ever own that I could think of, you know, from your Styles P to your Jadas to your everything. Cash Money, No Limit, everything. I had everything that I wanted. Shipped it all back to the UK, and that's when now I've got the collection, and I start practicing at home. And Super T, who's playing at the local club regular, he starts taking me to, he starts saying, you can roll to the club. I'm still underage. I'm like, not even 18 yet. And I start getting the gist of it, and I'm like the rap guy. Rap was always my thing. I didn't know anything about dancehall music. I didn't have a clue. And I'm stepping into a predominantly black nightclub, at first daunting, did at my depth, like didn't understand anything, and then it all just started clicking. The guy started putting me on during his sets. I'd play an hour or so. I was doing this for ages. I weren't getting paid, you know what I mean? Like I was on the come up. And then eventually the owners of the club start giving me my own slots, and I become part of the collective. Now, it's important to note that people listening might think I'm talking about a random nightclub in the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
But let me tell you, like, those times, the park in Peterborough, you could ask a Rampage, you could ask a Westwood, a Goldfinger, a Trevor Nelson. You can even ask reggae dancehall sounds like Mighty Crown, Bass Odyssey, Stone Love. All these huge names were being brought to this club at a time where it was like very special. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'd seen top DJs come to my city from early, and we would connect with them.
Sure.
You know, so it's like meeting Trevor Nelson when you're on the come up, meeting Westwood, meeting a Goldfinger, meeting a David Rodigan, and those a lot of those relationships like started from early, especially with a lot of the One Extra DJs.
Sure.
You know, we had a lot of them come through. We did a lot of those times. One Extra would do like One Extra lives from the nightclub. They'd come set up the radio equipment, and you'd have Rampage on one floor and all kinds of things, bro. So it was a real hub, you know. And those times as well, in terms of like when I was building that vinyl collection up as well, I would, when I could afford it, we'd go on the weekends. We'd do a day trip to London, and we'd hit like Uptown Records, Major Flavors, and we'd still have to, because obviously even though I've been to New York and I've got a collection, it doesn't
still need to keep
there,
up to date. Yeah,
like a release would come out, I'd be getting the train to like Major Flavors in London, near Oxford Street or off near Tottenham Court Road. I remember one of the record stores. Some of the record stores always move around as well, and one time sticks in my mind specifically of going up there, and Sean Paul had just dropped the Gimme the Light remix with Busta Rhymes. This record was going crazy in the club, but I didn't have a copy. It was super hard to get hold of this record. I've gone to Major Flavors and I've asked the guy behind the counter, this is the record I'm looking for. He's like, they're all gone, bro. I'm like, I'm only here for today. You know, they're like telling me, yo, come back on Monday, I might get some more copies in. I said, I'm only here today. I'm walking out the store and the guy behind the desk calls me back and he says, I've got one more that I've kept for me, but I want £25 for it. For one track, bro, one vinyl. I said, yeah, bro, like, give me that. Get back on the train. That night I'm playing at the club and I've got it on vinyl. So that was the come up, like, locally, you know. And then, like I said, you know, I've gone off to uni, but I'm coming back every weekend to play locally, as well as kind of building and trying to get on at university.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, thank you for going in so much detail, and like it's a crazy story, and it makes me think in terms of the struggles that you had to go through to be a successful DJ back then versus the struggles that people have to go through today to be successful, is that they're completely unparalleled, and we can kind of assess that moving forward in terms of the work that you had to put in to pick up one track versus what you have to do today is obviously completely unparalleled. But I'm interested, before we go into like so much time, to kind of go back, and one thing that you told me about off camera was about your blood disease. I don't want to butcher the name, but I'm kind of interested to understand how that affected you in your childhood, as I think it's incredibly tough when you have any illness in childhood. You rely on people caring for you, and then also how has it affected you within that come up, and what complications did it create? I think it's good that you picked up on that. The reason why I mentioned it, in all honesty, is because I've never really spoke about it, and I feel that we're at a time where I should have been doing it from a long time ago to bring awareness more than anything else. You know, there's never been a story that I've told for sort of sympathy, like anyone who's going through anything that, like a lot of us. But to answer your question, I suffer from a blood disorder called thalassemia, which is often grouped in the blood disorder world with something like sickle cell. So, for example, a lot of sort of my care is overseen by a sickle cell and thalassemia center, right? Two different conditions, but they have connections. So, to answer your question, I was diagnosed with that from the moment I was born. Like, they picked it up, I think, when I was like 2 years old, if that, maybe even earlier. And what it actually means is it's my bone marrow can't produce
enough red blood cells, which obviously red blood cells carry oxygen around
Sure.
all of your body. So can't produce enough. So the way I describe it to people, you know, without like overflowing their mind, is it's like I run on a lower battery than the next man.
Okay.
And what that means is from that age of 2, I'm in and out for treatment. And by treatment, I mean I'm having regular blood transfusions. I'm no stranger to the hospital. And again, you know, back to the point of like raising awareness, I think the key thing with that is for brown and black people who suffer from those blood diseases and who rely on transfusions, we need donors. We need people to give blood. All people, but especially brown and black, because we don't have enough people giving blood. So that was my kind of drive to kind of mention that. And in terms of its impact, bro, it's to this day. So, you know, I have to go in. And how does that look? It's a lot more manageable now.
How many opportunities do you feel that you missed out on as a result of the condition?
I mean, the main one would be something like maybe 10 years ago or so, there's always, not even 10 years ago, but there's always been opportunities to kind of go out somewhere on the come up to DJ for a whole season abroad. This is the biggest example I can give you, where, you know, a lot of the DJs listening, or a lot of the promoters will know, they just want one man to be out there for the whole duration. And I need to come back for treatment.
How regularly?
It can vary, but anything between 5 to 7 weeks. And I actually count myself lucky that it's 5 to 7, because I've grown up with people who, for example, suffer with sickle cell and even thalassemia, who are in a lot more frequently than that, right? But you've got to plan around that. So, you know, there was times where back then there'd be certain opportunities like, yeah, Firestarr, like, yeah, sure, you can come out to places I probably wouldn't go now for a whole season, because I'm past that kind of that whole thing. But on the come up, that's how a lot of DJs, you know, you look at Rusky's story. I'm sure he spent a good couple years out somewhere building his name. I can't remember where he was, but I just know he was putting in work somewhere overseas. So that is where it's like, no, I've got to come. I mean, it doesn't really rule out the opportunity. I've got a plan for it, and sometimes it becomes like it don't work for them, and it's not really going to work for you.
Sure.
But I think more on a kind of basis now is there'll be days, there's been many times where I've spent, you know, people wouldn't know, like I've spent the whole day in hospital and then I'm working that night. And, you know, you've just spent the whole day having treatment and getting your blood transfusion. And it doesn't work how people think, where because you've just had like a transfusion, suddenly your energy's
calm,
on cloud nine. No, you're actually bare tired afterwards, bro. And, you know, so it just varies every time. But then you're out you've got to go and play. Yeah. And you know, a whole day sitting in a hospital as well.
It's draining.
You've got to factor that into to anything else that you're doing in your day-to-day living. And it was especially difficult sort of throughout the university times.
So I was going to ask on this. So, I mean, just briefly, how much support did you get, like, from your family in terms of that care when you were growing up before you went to uni?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
A lot.
1,000,000%. Like, my parents were very, they built me up to kind of, you know, believe that you know, you can lead the life that you want to live. And I've taken control of that myself, and I've kind of shown that because people wouldn't even know until now. And I've been here for so long. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not something that everyone would know. And
so yeah, I was just thinking with that in mind, and like how much support you did get, how tough did that then make the uni life when actually you're fending for yourself, and how did you cope with that?
Well, the thing is, bro, like the thing with the condition is, I've mentioned going in for blood transfusion, but the problem with the condition, or the main hindrance and the most difficult part of the condition, much like when sickle cell patients talk about having a crisis and things like that, with thalassemia, you have iron overload. When you're given blood, packed red blood cells in a transfusion, your body has an iron overload, and when you're thalassemia, you can't remove that iron. Now, the only way to remove that iron for the best part of like 28 years of living, it's changed now, but for those 28 years, you had to have regular overnight injections in your stomach, right? So you'd sleep with a little pump, which would be putting this medicine slowly into your stomach overnight. You're taped up. You'd wake up. You'd have to take this needle out. You'd be bruised. The next night, you're supposed to go on the other side. And I was supposed to manage 5 of these in a week with 2 days off on a Saturday, Sunday. And growing up, so up to the age of sort of, I think, 14 to 15, I used to have like specialist nurses come and do the injection. Then I remember my dad learned how to do the injections.
Okay.
They taught him how to make up the medicines, and then he would be doing my injections, right? And then when I got to 17, 18, and I knew I was going to uni, I had to learn how to do them myself. And then I'm at uni, and bro, I couldn't manage 5 a week. There was no chance. You know, I'm trying to live the uni life. But then your health's on the line as well. You have to get some injections in, you know? And also, it's not something at the time you think you can... people don't get it, so you don't tell people. You know, you go back to your room, and then it's like, okay, I need to kind of do an injection, and like it's time to go to sleep. And
do you feel like you were embarrassed to tell people?
No, I wouldn't say embarrassed. I just don't think people
would understand,
would get the scale of sometimes what you're talking about.
Yeah,
you know, like people who are close to me, sometimes I've mentioned kind of some of the things that I'm telling you, but it kind of goes over people's heads. Like if you was to do a not that you would, but if you was to do like a 24 hours with Firestarr, like on the day of treatment, and back then, you'd be like, flipping it, mate. Real, like this is, you know, just like anyone going through what they're going through. That's why, you know, I mentioned it to you off camera, because I just, for the main purpose that the people that give blood are crucial for a lot of us, you know, and it goes, you know, that's just something that I wanted to kind of definitely mention. And to just add the medication, it came a long way in the sense of when I got to the age of 28 onwards, they'd finally been able to develop medications that mean you don't have to have these overnight injections, which was like a godsend. Imagine all your life, like, you know, you're dealing with that, and they take that situation gets not fixed, but there's another way around it via tablets. You still got to go into hospital every so often, but compared to what you knew it was, it's that's where we're at with it now. So.
Yeah, it's progression, right? And I mean, it's like not comparable, but comparable in a way to what we were speaking about earlier with the vinyl side of things. So having to go through all that pain to pick up the vinyls when now you can just download the track. You had to go through all that pain of going through and getting these injections when now, look, it's still horrific, don't get me wrong, but there's the tablets, so it just shows that clear progression over this stage of your life, which is great to hear. So quick one. We work with a lot of up-and-coming urban artists across the UK who are seeking press assistance, radio airtime, creative marketing solutions, and really all-round artist development within an industry that is constantly evolving. which is why when we had the opportunity to partner with the 1994 Collective on this podcast, it made perfect sense. So to any aspiring artists that are seeking commercial success, please do get in contact with the 1994 Collective and let them know we sent you. I mean, to kind of move forward, and so obviously you're at uni and you decide, look, I want to be a DJ, and you decide to do events and stuff like that. So you said highs and lows, which is like words which stick out in my head, and I'm like, all right, okay, so he said highs and lows. Let's talk about the lows first. So what are the lows for people that are inexperienced within the industry?
The lows are trying to get on. And that still to this day, bro, like you always got to keep pushing, you know? But the lows, them times, so, you know, I started running events like fully when I finished uni for a long spell, but I was actually involved in events while I was at uni as well. And I was trying to get on. So say, for example, like there was student nights where I was, and like anything, it's hella clicky. They've got their guys. I'm trying to pitch to them. Remember, I'm going home every weekend and DJing with big people and doing what I do in my city. And then I'm trying to tell the uni people, like, I want to play on this student night. And it was like having to drum up. It was just a battle, bro. Like having to drum up support amongst people, like learning how to network with people who were involved in the student union, for example. You know, some students become like, what do they call it when they're
student reps?
Yeah, they're like your student reps and stuff like that. And, you know, luckily, you know, I went to Derby. We had a close, it was a small place. So we had a close kind of community. So a lot of the man them, like when they knew what I was about and what I could do, they were kind of in my corner, like talking to the right people. And I'd get a break and I'd get to play on some of the student nights, and everyone would be supportive. But it was constantly trying to push to get on. And the event side, it progressed obviously in Nottingham afterwards in terms of, and that was more for the hunger of like putting on talent. But even when I was in Derby as a student, there was this whole ethos from me that was like, if they're going to keep saying no, I'm just going to put myself on. I'm going to create something where no one can tell me that I can't play because it's mine. And then off that, because we'll make it great, everything else will come. So I was always a firm believer of like, you got to try and basically, you know, that it might sound cliche, but if they're not opening the door, what's the saying? Like, if they're not opening the doors, like create your own doors. It's always been that, you know. Always. How
painful were those no's though when they're repetitive as well?
Bro, they're still painful. You know, it still happens. Still things, you know, not everything is always a yes. You know, even but them times, yeah, very frustrating. Like I never forget like one of the guys who's on my podcast with me, from Gavin from Derby. But I don't need to shout him out as well. Car buying guru and all that. He, you know, he'll say the same thing. You know, people were just saying no, and there was no reason other than their own sort of self-interest, but they were not relevant. Like they weren't doing a good job. You know, it was like kind of.
So their arrogance.
Let the new guy in kind of thing. He's good enough, but it was still like, nah, we're good with like what we've got. And it takes its toll, bro, because when you're that age as well, you're even more inclined to like just want to fall out with people and just war them and just, you know, say kind of like, just, you know. What
are the long-term effects of that? So let's say you take that route and you do that. What are the long-term effects?
I mean, luckily for me, the people in Derby were, you know, and I think back to the student nights and I think to some of the people that were running things there, it don't matter now. They don't matter because they're not in any sort of scene or culture. But that's not to say that maintaining relationships is a treacherous road, you know, to this day. And obviously relationships matter. things can come round full circle. And there's been many a times where they've gone left for me and they've gone superbly well, where something's clicked from before and someone's remembered. And
what examples of them going left do you have?
I think more so maybe when someone's not put you on, and I'm trying to think outside of Derby, because obviously that was a spell at uni, but then eventually man got on, you know. But I think it can transition into places like when I've gone to Nottingham to run events, for example, and I don't know, let's say you're trying to get your hands on a venue, like when I was first starting out to get hold of the student union. I remember to put on one of my first events like solo. I was successful, but there's been times I'm going off into sort of more the event space, but there's been times where I've not got what I wanted in terms of a venue based on what I'm putting on, in terms of, to put it bluntly, black music. You know, the doors would be shut. What you doing? I'm doing an R&B and hip hop. No, we don't want that. We don't want R&B hip hop. Do you know what I mean? Those sort of barriers. And
why did you feel those barriers were there?
Because they didn't want brown and black people in an event. They didn't understand the music. They didn't understand the culture. They, you know, we still have it now. We still have it to this day where people face problems. Shows get shut down. We know what the history is. Back then it was worse. The amount of times I've sat in meetings and I've been told, you can't book him. We can't have him. You know? And it's kind of like you have to bite your tongue. So
in those situations, did you not question those
many
decisions?
times, bro. Like if there's anyone that knows me knows I will push people's patience to the limit. I'm like ride or die. Like I want to know why. You know, it's not simply like no, and that's it. I'll be like, yeah, but why can't we? Like, I'll be pushed like, oh, we've had intelligence. Who have you had intelligence from? Who? Who's emailed? You know, and there was so many different occasions where this happened. You know, and in my journey, it led us to a point of, you know, further down the line, when I was telling you about sort of running events in Nottingham for a long stretch, like a good 10 years.
And losing your residency.
Yeah,
right?
The residency was lost as a result. I'm talking about at the student union.
Yeah. So what happened?
So I'd been running at various locations in the city. And we had basically, the Nottingham Trent had changed its student union. It had become a brand new sort of building and whatever. And we started doing, so I was running there when I first started, so doing small events, and then it went on to getting my hands onto being able to do events at Oceana, which is obviously now Prism, but it was called Oceana.
Yeah.
And was doing successful events there, huge events of scale. And after a couple years, we started doing some events at the new student union in Nottingham again. And I think that was around the time where Oceana became Prism. And we couldn't run our nights anymore at Oceana. So we needed a new home, right? So we went to the union, and it was all politics and red tape from the jump, because they didn't understand the music. And everything was a battle in terms of the rules and regulations for an event that I was doing was sometimes it was beyond not even worthwhile, but I still wanted to do it, you know? Like, and when I'm talking about not worthwhile, I'm talking about the venue hire would be extortion because it's a black music event, right? The crowd, they think they're going to get trouble. The security costs are now onto the promoter, whatever. I never had these problems at the other venue, but the student union moved like this. But it was deeper than that. It was like, I'll never forget one of the events there. Well, actually, we had J Hus booked early. I brought J Hus to Nottingham twice, right? And the first time he was in Nottingham. He was actually scheduled at the student union. So we've agreed that he's going to go down there, whatever. Literally, bro, like 2 days before, they've pulled the plug. They've literally just said, yeah, we don't think it's safe. After you've been through everything, they've said, we're pulling the plug. Luckily for me, I still had a relationship at the Oceana venue. I've gone back there. I've said, look, this event is sold out. They've said we can't run it. And we had to strike a deal with the guy who had the night on that night. He gave us the night and whatever, and we managed to pull it off. And that event sort of highlights, it's on YouTube for everyone to see, just how much of a movie it was. But the funny part about that story is, fast forward a year later, we did J Hus at the Nottingham Trent Student Union. So they've let it run a year later, right? But again, I had so many problems dealing with them. You know, I had an instance where I had Abra booked, and Abra had just done a show in Hertfordshire. At the time, I was doing some 9 to 5 work at Hertfordshire. Didn't last long. Hated it. Hated the 9 to 5 fucking grind. But I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And they got wind that I was an event promoter in Nottingham. And they had Abra on their programme. For some reason, there was something happened that night, small scale, like somebody in Abra's like entourage or someone not even really associated to him got into something with someone at the event.
A fight?
Yeah, a fight. Like, it wasn't like, not a stabbing or no one got killed or anything. A fight. But the venue manager of Hertfordshire, it became a thing for them that something had happened.
Mm.
He took it upon himself to call Nottingham. So I've got Abra like a week later. His pal is the same venue licensee holder in Nottingham. He's called to give the heads up that, oh, you know, I see you've got Abra booked. Just to let you know, this is what happened here. Straight away, my phone rings. Right, Firestarr, we want you to tell Abra. It's what they said to me, bro. They said, we want you to tell Abra he can't travel with any more than 5 people to the event. Now, bro, let me explain something to you as a promoter, event promoter. You can't tell a man that. You can't dictate to a man. They're not going to listen, bro.
What do you think his reaction? So let's say you're like, all right, fine, let me ring
I did
Abra.
try. I did. What was his reaction? In my own way, it was like, look, bro, you know, they're not. Can you roll like? Because I had a lot of experience with this kind of stuff, you know, and I say it laughingly because, you know, I've worked with Sneakbo so many times over the years, right? And me and him would always fall out, like, not seriously, but, you know, he'd always roll super heavy and it would always be a problem on the doors, but we'd always manage to get it done somehow, right? These are student events, bro. Like, it's kind of like I'm the middleman and it's higher powers dictating to me, and I just don't want the show to get cut. That's simply kind of the narrative. But the student union was a whole different ballgame. They were like, tell Abs he can roll with 5. So in the lead up, I've tried to speak to Abs. I remember like, bro, look, you know, just roll with a couple, man. Like, how many cars, you know, I know how this goes, innit? But I know that it's going to be cool in terms of like, there's not going to be a problem in terms of his performance or anything like that. That I can, you know, that the relationship, the respect is there enough to, you know, I didn't question any of that. He must have rolled on the night about 7 people. The cars have pulled in. The entertainment manager at the time. So he's like, what, 2 people over? Something like that? Entertainment manager said to me, he's got 7 with him. We told you 5. Did you know about this? Now, in my head, I knew he was coming in 2 cars. Did I know the numbers? Not really. Would I have said if I'd known the numbers? Probably not, because it's 2 people. In my head, I'm like, I just can't risk it. Knowing how these guys operate, they'll look at the history. They did it when I tried to do Hus. Like, they just don't get it. They don't get that. You gotta understand, and you gotta have the right people in place. And he came with 7. They let him in, but the aftermath of that was just more problems for the next event, to unimaginable levels, which leaded to the end of the events there because of what happened that night. And in as a sort of what's it called? As a result of that as well, I lost my weekly residency there, and that was
How did that feel?
I was pissed, bro. Like the two things are not connected. So imagine you're going to work on a Saturday night to go and play, and you run events in the week. The two things are not correlated. If they didn't want to run any events anymore, that's you know, that is what it is. But the two things didn't correlate.
Where did you direct your anger?
At the union, still, because I felt there was so much sort of unspoke of racism and like lack of understanding, you know. And now look at it. Now look at like black music now, like it's the most pop. Now they're dying to have the names that were being pitched to them. Now you want it.
And obviously we both know the answer, but why do you think that is?
It makes some money. It makes some mad money, and I talk again. Like, I don't want to over talk about it because it's gone now. We're talking about 2017, right? The last event, Fredo was headlining the event. The lineup was Fredo, Hardy Caprio, and Belly Squad. It was a freshers event, sold out before the terms even started. Young T and Bugsy came through that night as well, remember, because they're Nottingham local man then. Now, I'd worked with Fredo a week prior in Cambridge. Not one problem, right? On a night which was not a student night as well. You got to understand the difference, people listening, you got to understand the difference between a student night and a local night. If a night in somewhere like Nottingham is open to locals, it could get pretty greasy in there. You know what I mean?
How do you mean? As
in, it's open to anyone from anywhere, whereas a student night is strictly student only. Do you know what I mean? So it's and the two crowds mixing, it's not really how they operate, is it? Like, that's hence why you have a student only. That's why student only exists as a policy for many of these places. So
I guess, just to put that bluntly, what you're saying is there's less risk at a student night than there is at a normal
I would
night.
say
That's
that.
what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nottingham, Fredo was headlining. Obviously, word gets out for events because you want them promoted. The artist is going to tweet or promote them or Instagram them or whatever. Locals know it's happening, right? But I've told the SU, look, guys, the event is sold out. Here are the figures. You need proper security. You need a proper system. We had failings straight from the start of that night. They didn't have enough security in. They weren't ready for the queue. They just didn't listen to anything that was sort of given to them in advance. What more can you do but tell them the event is sold out? You're going to get 1,000 people coming. Also, you're going to get locals trying to get into the event, which happens, right? You can't stop that. But when that happens at a nightclub, they have the security and the correct security team in place to say, right, you're not a student. I need you to go. I need you to leave the premises, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? There's a way of handling it. You need the right people. They didn't have the right people staffed. What happened was the doors kind of got rushed. Then they've closed the doors. You've got 500 student ticket holders outside there that they're not letting in. Bear in mind, bro, I'm downstairs. I'm on the stage. Dude, I'm not on the door. I'm DJing, I'm hosting, I'm sorting out what's going on in the event. And I've closed the doors. They've opened them up for a brief period. And Fredo's come to Nottingham. Obviously, remember, I'm still on the stage, so I've got people working upstairs, updating me on what's going on. They've said Fredo's next door. They're not letting him in they're not letting him in to perform. And then the entertainment manager's come down and she said, Firestarr, I want you to, we're closing early. It's not safe, so we need to cut the event by half an hour, and I want you to announce it, and I don't want you to say anything sort of derogatory, because obviously I'm pissed, bro. I'm like, what are you talking about? How can the headline act not be allowed into the event through your own nonsense? So I've announced it and I've apologised, but I've fully said what has happened. I've said they've basically fucked up the event and they're not letting him in. So there was a lot of there was a lot of kind
animosity.
of there was a lot of spillage off the back of that, and they took the decision to basically say, yeah, you can't DJ on the weekends anymore. And I took that to heart, because 2017, that was a real big low point in a year that was mad. Because a couple months back from that, 5 months, that's when I'd been on the first tour with gigs. So I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to elevate, and things are only going to get better. And I've put in so much work into this city, into Nottingham specifically, in terms of networking and artists that I've bought there and the relationships. I wanted to carry on building that way. So that was a difficult situation, yeah, man.
It sounds, incredibly difficult. And what a story, by the way. It's captivating. I'm just listening as kind of like a viewer at this stage, and I'm just like, Jesus wept. Not even letting Fredo in as well. It's like crazy.
Yeah,
but
it's holding him like hostage next door, bro. Like, what? Are you guys serious? Like, and
that's
the
crazy.
people, the kind of, it's mad after things go left like that, because as any event promoter knows, it's on you, innit? You got people that didn't get to see the guy that was there, and
with that in mind, you say it's on you, and I guess in those moments you start to see who your real friends are, who the real characters are in those low moments. So I mean, to move forward, so you referenced that was around about 2017, and then obviously 2020 pandemic, and I know some personal problems and stuff like that. How accurate would you say it was actually 2020 that was the toughest year of your life?
Yeah, I'd say the pandemic to now, 2020, the start, bro. And obviously, I lost my mum to COVID, and it was right at the start, bro. March 2020, when everything started, is when she got unwell, and this went on till May. And I don't want to go in depth into the ins and outs, but it's just a blur, bro. And it's I knew from that time how mentally challenging and how thick-skinned I'd have to be, because I totally I'm very kind of each to their own. I'm not pro this, pro that. People can make their own decision to do what they need to do for themselves, You'd think, some people would think, because you've been through what you've been through, you'd sway a certain way, right? Or I'm talking about in terms of whether it's vaccines or whatever. But the bottom line is, the handling of the situation is obviously going to hurt somebody like me more than your average person, but being on socials and being in this field throughout this whole time, and doing the things that I've done, and having to listen to people's opinions. Not, you're gonna, if you're on Twitter or you're on IG, I've had people who are closest to me who know what's happened, who have something to say, whether it's not real or whether it's anti-vax or whatever it is, and I've had to just switch off that thought, because it's too damaging, bro. It's too damaging to kind of be upset by what your view is when I've paid the ultimate price. And at the end of the day, bro, no matter what your view is, you can't give me back what I want. Do you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter. But I told you, and I'm very much still in it. And everything's in that sense, to put it bluntly, regardless of what people see, the things they see on, we all know, innit? The things that you see on socials are often a face to kind of, and for me, I love my work, be it DJing, be it, you know, the podcast, the series, influential records, whatever. That's what I want to portray. Like, I don't want to put out kind of my deep feelings on socials. Like, it doesn't, you know, if anyone that, when you lose someone, bro, like, of that magnitude, there's so many things that I've read and watched, and something sticks in my mind, and I don't even know him personally, right? But I watched an interview once with Margs, and I think Margs was, if I get it wrong, then my bad, but I think he was talking about his brother, who he lost. And he was talking about sitting in the car on the way to the service or something, and his exact words were something along the lines of, he was looking out the window and he couldn't believe that everyone was just going about their daily business, and basically life goes on and the next day comes, but when you're in it, bro, and when you lose someone of that magnitude, like, you can't comprehend that kind of, you know, the cliche stuff, it will get better with time. And, you know, I'm not anywhere near there. You know what I mean? I just try and do what I can and try and kind of keep my head right throughout however long. For this period will be forever, I reckon, but it's about just trying to manage how you're feeling. And, you know, when I'm down, like, I'm down. A lot's changed in this whole time, this whole pandemic. I've had people that were around that are no longer around, bro. Friends that are not friends and all that stuff. And, of course, I feel a type of way about those specific situations. And like people say, when you go through tough times, you see who's really there and that kind of stuff. But I also have the mentality of, I can get wrapped around and tell you stories about who did me dirty and who wasn't there. But at the same time, bro, there's a handful of people who really came through for man who I wouldn't have envisioned. Do you see what I mean? So when you're in the lowest of moments, it's just surprising as to what shows, you know, who's there, who isn't. But overall, again, getting wrapped up in that's only a small part of the biggest loss. They can't fix the problem. So it is you versus you. You know, I always say that to myself, like, it's you versus you, Fire. Like, when I'm down and I'm at home and it's not been easy, look at what everyone's been through, you know? And I understand as well, like, people's frustrations, because we've all been stopped from doing things, and I've been stopped from doing things that I don't want anyone to ever have to go through, you know? Like, and we talk about, you know, it's the topic at the moment about for everyone was following the rules and certain people weren't following all this stuff, bro. But apply that to whether it's losing someone to COVID or whether somebody you know suffered, because as we know, the fallout of it is there's people who have other conditions who maybe have not got treatment and they've suffered. And in that period, there was other people in hospital who couldn't go and see loved ones. Bro, like, it doesn't get any more real than that when you can't go to the hospital, bro. Like, this is, like, what, do you know what I mean? So to live with that, it's kind of, it takes a lot of effort. It takes all of my energy, like, to get through that process. And so as much as I can be angry about friends who were not there, and to be honest, it is what it is. They showed their colours, and like, we move on and we give thanks to the people that proper, like, do support man and help man and are there, you know. And that's it, bro. Like, that's the best way I can summarise.
Yeah, it's touching. So thank you for the honesty and for going into it. I know, like, it's not easy, and I know from personal experience it's not easy as well. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, man. Towards the end of that, you said about, like, it takes all of your energy, and it was just interesting that word, like, popped up and stuck in my mind, because obviously earlier when we were speaking about the blood disease, you were saying about energy and how your energy is significantly lower than someone else. So then I was just thinking that amplifies the problem of this taking all of your limited resource of energy. Yeah. So it just amplifies the problem even more.
And we've been you know, we know the situation that we've all been in with a lot of people, including not only did I suffer personal loss, but I suffered in my work as well. Everything went, you know, to the point of the one thing I wanted to get back to doing, being in the clubs, you know, for the people that don't know, like we told the story about Nottingham, but at the same time when that went away, I started a new thing in Cambridge. So I would be in Cambridge. That would be my bread and butter every week. And that club closed at the start of the pandemic, and it never came back, bro. And, you know, that was where I ran my club events, and I was a resident, and I was able to kind of make the things happen in the culture and in the scene that are kind of are relevant now. So that got taken away. So it's been like, it's been a disaster, bro. Like and that's to put it lightly, you know. It's only because like I skim over it quickly because, like anything, bro, like if you really tap in and I was to really sit down for like 6 hours and talk to you about the start of that pandemic, like I don't know, bro, like I'd be broken. Like, so I just try to kind of, I'm not there yet to be able to kind of go, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I think in like the initial period, which the initial period for different people will be different lengths, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like within that initial period, like a coping mechanism is just to try and mask it, which is, I think, to be totally transparent, and this is from my experience, it can actually have negative long-term effects. Whereas I think if you bite the bullet's probably not the right saying, but if you bite the bullet initially and you're vulnerable initially, actually I feel like in the long term you will benefit, but it's how painful is it to bite that bullet initially, and sometimes the pain of that initial situation is too much. So you'll take the long-term pain over being vulnerable initially. So I think it's tough, and I think we've gone into it, and yeah, like I say, I appreciate the honesty, and I know like it's a tough one. It's a tough one to speak about, but again, and I feel myself saying this quite a lot when I have guests in, unfortunately those sorts of situations are not necessarily that unique. A lot of people unfortunately go through those losses. So I feel like that is why it's important that we do, no matter how hard it is, have these conversations so people understand, okay, I'm not the only one. This person's gone through it, and there is strength in numbers as well, even if it's like on an empathetic level, the people that are watching this.
And the way that, the way I sometimes described it to people over the past sort of 18 months, a few people, is I'd say, I'm part of this shit club that I didn't ask to be in. It was literally, you know, to put it bluntly, like I'm part of this situation where when you speak to somebody who has suffered like a loss to the closest person to them, there's just a level of automatic understanding. You know, doesn't matter how far in I mean, don't get me wrong, some people who are like I think we spoke about it before we started, and I mentioned what was his name?
Chris Jammer.
Yeah, I mentioned Chris Jammer's story, and I said it was mad to see how he was really inspiring, and he was able to speak about he was able to speak about his mum and the impact, but I'm not at that.
No,
I'm not there to be able to.
And that's fine.
You know, I can talk about how great and how much of a superwoman my mum was, but I'll just, it's just too much.
Yeah.
Like, so
to move forward, like into the present moment then, and you kind of touched upon it then. You said, like, although it's in like the immediate past, it still very much is the present. But right now, sitting here talking to me on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy would you say you are?
Oh boy, I don't even know how to answer that one. How happy am I? Bro, I'd just say I'm surviving, you know what I mean? I'm getting through every day, and I'm trying to sort of I can't give you a number, bro. I really could, like 1 to 10, like, I'm here, and I've been here. I'm going through what's happened, and I'm quote pushing on. But behind the scenes is what people maybe they don't always see. You know, it's the kind of like you do great things in your work, and you put your efforts into that, and you get certain moments and highs, like some of the stuff that's happened in terms of work and maybe the interviews and stuff. But it's surreal. Like you'll get praise for the biggest interview you've done, for example, on a podcast, right? Or on my, I'm specifically I'm talking about my series. Like, if I'm honest, right, I'll do the biggest sort of interview on Influential Records, and I'll be promoting it, and the people will hit me back like, "Oh my god, like you've sat with Usain Bolt, you've got gigs on, you've got Yemi Alade on, whatever." We can name drop all of them; they're all there to see. But that goes out, the influx of like love comes in, but inside, man's empty because all man wants is what is gone in his personal life. Do you see what I mean? So it's hard to kind of that's a real difficult one, you know. I'm still, that was happening from the start of the pandemic, like from when, you know, things happened with my mum, and then, you know, I was on the BBC at the time, and you know, you're doing things, and people are getting back to you, and it's the praise is just kind of
empty.
It's empty. You're grateful, you know, never did like you're that's what you're in it for, but it's just all the wrong time. Like I can't be happy about this because look what, if you knew what was happening, none of this matters. But then it does matter. It's really weird, bro. Like, so yeah.
To assess the future then, with that in mind, I mean, what's your immediate reaction when I say the word future? What do you think of?
Yeah, daunting little bit. Like, being real, like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm that guy, like, I want to push on, you know. I'm focused on, again, the Influential Record series that I run, but it's been a very damaging, difficult time, so it's kind of slow progress. Like the series is great, don't get me wrong, like that is one element that, you know, some of my older school friends are a part of that and involved and pushed man to do that. At my lowest point, like, they pushed man to create that, and look what we've created. Like, you know, the people that we're talking to, like, the limits are endless. So that is something that that gives me a bit of like, keep on that one. And in terms of kind of what man loves to do, obviously, yes, like, places are open, clubs are, you know, but it's been a very crazy road. It's been so many ups and downs, a lot of places, a lot of different situations now. So getting back and getting that, to be honest, it's about me and like about my vibe and my aura. I feel like my vibe and aura is like has vanished, bro. I'm trying to grab on to like reclaim.
It hasn't.
You know what I mean? I'm trying to like
I understand that might be how you feel, but it hasn't. Yeah.
So inside, it's like, shit, man. Like pre-2020, I had a bounce. I had a vibe. Like, no matter the highs and lows we've talked about, no matter all of these problems, but then since everything's happened, it's like, it's just trying to reassess and trying to grab bits of that energy and that vibe and put it into the things that hopefully are coming up in the future. And, you know,
the future, what are the goals for the future? I mean, I understand, to be fair, this might be a really tough topic, because like you referenced the word surviving. Like, at the moment you're going day by day, and rightly so, but I mean, how much thought have you given to the future and what you want to accomplish to give you kind of that sense of satisfaction or success or fulfillment?
Yeah, I think the goals are kind of, I mean, they've changed a little bit in the sense of, you know, again, the series is here, so a lot of my energy goes into kind of how can we grow the Influential Record series now, you know. We've sat with Usain Bolt, like, come on, like, you know, we're many others. Like, now it's kind of like, I want to get musical insights with more guests. So we've had sports athletes on, we've had artists on, now we can go into all kinds of areas and types of guests that people are interested in hearing about, what influenced them, etc. And in terms for me, I want to get back onto radio. That's always been a goal from day one. Obviously, I was on the BBC residency, and I want to push on to kind of get back onto radio, get back in the clubs kind of more heavy as everyone starts picking up pace again. And there's some exciting things coming, like, you know, I DJ for Vic Santoro, who he had a headline show in November, and he's confirmed, you know, God willing that we get to this, but he's confirmed at in Texas for is it the South by Southwest
sick
festival?
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be touching over there and pushing with people in the culture. You know, I had a meeting with SK yesterday from Finesse Forever. You know, they're working on some great stuff, and you know, I want to work with him. You know, that's just, we'll see how that all pans out, but just want to keep pushing, bro, like in the culture.
Can I ask you personally, how much of a priority is love, or like a relationship, a personal relationship for you?
It's always been there, bro, but it's never been a priority. Do you see what I mean? I've always thought, that's a mad question, bro. Where did you think of that one from?
I'm always interested to understand in the future, and obviously kids are a big part of the future,
Yeah,
so I like to kind of understand about that, but to have children, you need to be in a relationship.
Yeah, I think what happens is I've always thought, at some point, get a missus, settle down, whatever settle down looks like, in the sense of I still want to do what I love to do. So I kind of have always envisioned this mentality of it will come when the time's right. But as you get older, you understand that you have to kind of give some attention to that area to get anything from that area. You know, you can't just think something from way over there is just gonna, it's very kind of unlikely if you're not even kind of trying per se. And you know, there's been a lot, like I said, there's been a lot happened, and it's kind of thrown the plan off even more so. Yeah. You know, reshaping like my family's situation, you know, dealing with what's been happening, the work situation. So it's there, it's on the radar, man. Like I just need to focus a little bit more and see what then happens, to answer that one.
Yeah, no, it was just more from a personal interest perspective, to be honest with you, because I get the impression from speaking with you, and even from when we hadn't spoken, to be honest, that you were so focused on your craft.
Yeah.
That, and more often than not, like from a personal perspective as well, when you're so focused on that, the other side does go missing, and sometimes that can be self-destructive. So yeah, I just wanted to really, I guess, see if my assumptions were correct, and it seems like they were. Yeah,
I think like the thing with that, bro, as well, when you're focused on whatever it is that you're doing, you also need to find somebody who
is on the same level,
who doesn't basically come with requirements to say you need to stop doing what you're doing. Because I've said it all along, like if somebody was to turn around to me and say you can't go and DJ on a Friday night or a Saturday night, well then this is not gonna work. It's literally because music and that gives me too much. It's too much in my DNA and part of the story to just stop. So someone, the same way, you know, it's just about compromise, isn't it? It's about understanding, but it can never be like expected that kind of he has to stop doing what he loves. Like that can't run. So that makes it a little bit more difficult, but you just got to have that element of understanding, I think, and when the time's right, hopefully, you know, we'll go from there.
100%. Well, that's, to be transparent, that's everything that I wanted to go through, and I feel like it's one of the craziest journeys that we've heard on this podcast, and I'm humbled by the transparency, the honesty, and by the detail as well, meticulous detail that you've gone into, which is going to be incredible from a viewer's perspective. So honestly, thank you for your time and for making the journey down. And I mean, how have you found it?
Yeah, I've loved it, bro. Like I said to you from before I came on, I was watching from the start of the series specifically, and I wanted to come on. I was apprehensive. I mentioned it to you just because, well, first of all, I've run my own podcast, and anyone's more comfortable talking with their friends if they're gonna talk, So coming onto a platform and seeing the people that you've had on, and knowing the kind of answers that you want, or you want to go into, I was a little bit kind of like, okay, let's sit. But no, I've loved being on, bro. So I appreciate you kind of just having man on, listening, and connecting. And I'm a fan, man. So I'm locked in to the future episodes, the past episodes, the present ones. I'm here. But yeah, man, it's been sick.
Thank you so much. Well, we have to ask the final two questions, which I'm sure you've seen. Yeah, so within the industry at the moment, like, what do you think is an unanswered topic, area, or just something that you would like looked into more?
Oh, I thought the question I thought you was going to ask me was the last question about who do I want to see on.
Yeah, that's coming.
Area that I think needs attention.
Yeah. So the answer we got earlier today, which I actually think was a really good answer, and so Genesis Elijah, he said, how much is a stream worth? He would like attention on that. So obviously you see all these pictures come out, Spotify give you this title.
I don't think it's a lot, bro. No. What I'm seeing, man, the streaming game is a bit of a mad thing for somebody's
So that was his answer, so to give you an example.
Do you know what, bro? Like, my one's a bit different, and it's more like, how can we make spaces accessible for people in the culture who are not from a black origin as well? Because I think there is some outstanding contributors to the space, and I'm all for black ownership and etc. But I think there's individuals that sit in a space, and I'm talking from experience. I'm talking from being a rap guy and coming from an Indian background. So I'm not black, but I don't belong over this side. I'm a contributor here, and so it's kind of like filtering out, just kind of seeing who, there's talented people out there contributing, and giving them a voice and a platform the same way that we're trying to get equal opportunities as well for minorities as well. It's just a big discussion. It's not. I'm being a bit. I don't know if I was being vague about it or not.
No. I think it's a really good point. It's an important one.
I think there's some great contributors, man, and I think it's not everything is based on kind of your colour.
Agreed.
No way.
100%.
There is, So that'd be a great area.
Yeah, it's a great answer. And so the one that you were expecting then, the very last one, who do you nominate to appear? And we will accept gigs. Gigs is fine.
I wasn't going to say gigs, believe it or not. I got two for you. And one of them is connected to gigs, I'll give you that, right? And one of them is a videographer, I believe, but he's involved in loads of things.
Sick.
Miles Whittingham. So he's behind a large part of some of the gigs videos you see. He's done a number of those. He's done videos overseas in the States. I'm sure he's behind some of the production for for Buck and Ashley's series, The Essence.
Oh, sick.
So I'm interested to hear his story. I know him as a personal friend, but I don't know his story.
Okay.
So I think his insight would be proper sick.
Perfect.
And another one is a producer. I've only met him once, so again, I'm not even picking like I'm not even picking my brethren like that. Like Miles, yeah, that's my people's, but you know, the second one, Fumes on the beat, young producer, and I met him once at the studio a couple months ago when I was doing we used his studio while I was doing an interview for PWR magazine. Shouts to Nisha as well. And she introduced me to Fumes on the Beat. And he's worked with your Potter Papers, your Rimsies, and I'd just love to hear his story. And I think he's fairly under the radar, but he's done some sick things.
Oh yeah, I can already hear his DJ tag playing in my head, so he's doing something right.
Yeah, man. So let's get him on as well, and I'm sure they'd both be down, so... Yeah, man.
Fingers crossed, let's try and make it happen. But yeah, thank you again for your time. Honestly, inspiring. So appreciate it, bro.
Thank you, man.